more ancient. It's the ocean that surrounded Pangaea 200 million years ago when the continents formed the supercontinent. And the Pacific Ocean is shrinking as we drift closer to Asia. This used to be scary before we made up with Russia. The thought that we were drifting towards Russia every year was scary to some people, but now we don't have a problem with that.
Okay. The next one for you then, I believe you're...
year. And so I think environmentalism is valuable. I think it goes overboard, and I think many evolutionists are involved in environmentalism as kind of a salve on the conscience for the fact that they don't have the right God to worship.
Again, we have 3 or 4 that are similar, so I'm going to try to question them. And I believe this is directed only at Dr. Hovind because it has to do with the handout that he gave out at the beginning. How are the theories of humanism, racism, pornography, and women's lib, etc., connected to evolution as is suggested in the handout given at the door? Question number 6.
All right, well, let me get to that one. The idea that there is no supreme being, that man is the God of this universe, that we make our own decisions based on what we feel is right and wrong as a human species, the idea that there is no supreme being to be accounted to, has given rise to numbers of offshoot religions. Hitler certainly used evolution to justify his genocide and racism. I have Hitler's list. He had the Jews at the bottom as more ape-like. They hadn't evolved as far. The blacks were next. Hitler hated the blacks. He walked out of the Olympics in 1936 when Jesse Owens won the Olympics, a black man. Racism can certainly be traced to the philosophy that different races of people are superior to other races. Whereas in Christianity, in the Bible, it teaches all nations are of one blood. Acts chapter 17 teaches that very plainly, certainly against racism. Let's see, what you wanted? Communism. Karl Marx, of course, after Darwin's book came out, just rejoiced and said, this is perfect to justify my theories of communism. Karl Marx tried to dedicate his book, Das Kapital, to Charles Darwin. Marx knew full well the importance of evolution on communism, and without evolution, communism would collapse. They have to have evolution to support their theory, their economic theories and political theories of communism. As far as how it ties in with abortion, the ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. Back to the same question. Is the baby human at the moment of conception? It has 46 chromosomes. It is going to develop into a human without intervention. Would we be upset if a woman killed her baby 6 weeks after it was born? After all, it's her life, it's her body. Doesn't she have a choice anymore if it's going to interfere with her lifestyle? Somebody's not thinking on this argument. As far as socialism, the idea that it's man's duty to take from the rich and give to the poor, the Robin Hood philosophy, everybody should work together and we should make people contribute to those who do not work or will not work or cannot work. Socialism ties right in with many of the philosophers of the 1800s who were avid evolutionists, including many in the United States. Which other ones did they ask about on there? Women's lib?
Blah, 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 blah. We talk about, oh dear, where is it here?
Well, that's okay.
Well, I'll read you a similar one also then that had to do with question number 6. No, I'm sorry, I can't really find it.
Oh, that's right.
It had to do with there was a similar question that I cannot find right now that had something to do with why is it that well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to try to paraphrase something I can't read.
Okay.
Let me find it.
That's fine. On the women's lib issue, I would say what I'm referring to there is the type of extreme feminazis that Rush Limbaugh talks about. I certainly do not believe that man has the right to carry a club and drag his wife around by the hair, and that is certainly not taught in Scripture. The wife is my wife of nearly 20 years now, is my friend and my companion. We have a wonderful relationship. There is a difference in roles. If I was to ask which is better, a horse or a cow, you can't answer. They're different. I'm sorry. You know, one's not better than the other. Are you going to milk it or ride it? You know, there's a difference. So man and woman are different. According to Scripture, they fill different roles. And there is nothing wrong with that. And the idea of trying to make them equal, of course, physically they're not equal. I mean, ask any biologist or go visit your doctor. There is a difference, you know. In the Army, you test all the women, test all the men. The men are physically stronger. They can do more. They can carry a heavier backpack for longer. And there are emotional differences. And I love all the differences. I think it's great. It's wonderful. And God did a great job. But I'm against the extreme feminazi movement, is the best way to put it. The idea of the women's lib, as in my understanding, that, and I think most women are also against it.
Since this was a question directed at Dr. Holman, do you wish to reply?
I wish to reply to his tone, if I may.
I will ask that you be a little bit cautious and stay to the
Yeah.
points.
Yes, my point is that, again, I keep my religion separate from my science, but that is not to call me a religious. And my family is deeply religious. We have many ministers amongst us, and I resent the implication that evolution is a godless science. Evolution is a mechanism to explain what we observe. It does not deal with our faith. It does say that we cannot accept a literal interpretation of the Bible. Very few religions today accept a literal interpretation of the Bible. I do not wish to be excluded, therefore, from religion, because I also have another part of my life that observes what I can observe and uses reason, which I believe is a very fine human gift.
Okay. You're first, I believe, Dr. Richardson. I'm going to go, I believe, through 3 more rounds, and then we'll call it an evening. Annual plants. How many years to produce a seed that will replace the parent plant? And how did the eye become? Did it evolve by a cell committee to an order that effectively sees? I believe these are challenges to some things that may have been said earlier.
Annual plants.
How many years to produce a seed that will replace the parent plant, according to evolution?
An annual plant is a plant that reproduces annually. It produces many seeds on each parent. Those seeds replace the parent. I don't quite know beyond that what the significance of replacing the parent is.
Okay,
Genetically, each seed receives half of the parent's genotype, so 2 seeds equals the genotype of the parents.
So you're saying 1 generation?
Sure.
Okay.
If you have 100 seeds, you more than replace yourself. So.
Okay, well, the second half of that, how did the I become? Let me phrase that. How did the capital I, capital become? Evolved by a cell committee to an order that effectively, capital, sees. I'm trying to reproduce what I think is the tone of the people's questions. Right, but it's in capitals. How do we get an eyeball that can see? If you don't want to handle this, I've given this